Oh my.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Toxicology's 25th episode extravaganza. Toxicology is the greatest podcast talking about addiction, recovery, and all things mental health. Tonight's episode, whoops, all hosts, with Jason Cabello and Joseph Gerardo. And ladies and gentlemen, here are Joseph and Jason.
Oh my God, we're on simultaneously.
We are.
Yeah, here are Joseph and Jason.
Joseph and Jason.
You know, if we were going in alphabetical order, you should come first.
Well, on the first thing, when it showed our pictures, I came first, and then I was like, let's mix it up a little bit. So, yeah.
Sounds
like
communism.
Variety for the people. For the people.
Oh, man. Welcome, everybody. Good evening, and welcome to Talksicology, the greatest live streaming Facebook podcast about recovery, mental health, and addiction in the known universe. So, yeah. How you doing, Jason? Things look a little different. Your background's a little different there. Is that a new virtual Zoom background you got going?
Yeah, new virtual Zoom. New house, man. Moved in. I was going to say, I'm so pale. Look, this new room doesn't have the haunted house Disney vibes that the last one did. But, I just moved in the other day, so it's still, I got my skateboards are out. That's the only thing that I really impact, my skateboards.
Focusing on the important things.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But it's been stressful as shit, though, man. Totally.
Oh, yeah.
Stressful.
Moving is not fun. Moving's difficult for like non-alcoholics and addicts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I was using, I never moved. I was getting kicked out of a lot of places, getting kicked out of a lot of halfway houses and sober houses because I pissed dirty or something like that. But yeah, I think gifts of recovery, man. It's me and my girlfriend, we got to choose our new house. We got to take our time to move in a little bit, and the neighborhood is fucking fantastic. I love it here. It's so cool. The house is very cool. Yeah, but I got to use some recovery tools today. So Davy Jones, big love, man, big love. And so everything, you know what I mean? We hired some movers, which we got quoted, and we ended up paying double that almost. And then we ended up hiring a cleaning crew to come into the old place so we could make sure to get our deposit back. And then they called us saying like, oh, we're going to need another hour and blah, blah, blah. And me and my girlfriend, Gabby, we were just so irritated. And so I'm like, give me the phone. I got on the phone with the guy. And I was just like, is this the service? Blah, blah, blah. And like really chewed him out. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And like I hung up and like I went and laid down and like 3 minutes later I come out and I'm like, I feel bad about that. And
that's not super spiritual.
Gabby's like, but I called him back and I apologized.
Good man.
And he was like, man, I know moving is stressful. No worries. I didn't take it personal. And I felt much better about it.
Good. You know what, though? Like, so much in life, like, can either be a blessing or a burden. And the only difference between the two is your perspective on them, right?
Nice, yeah.
Like, you have a house that you needed to clean. Like,
right.
There's people who'd love to say that, right? You were able to afford to pay for help to clean the house.
And I know, these are things that I was very aware of the whole time I was doing it. I was just like, I'm extremely grateful because, as my mom can attest, just 6 short years ago, my belongings were essentially 2 garbage bags. And that was it. You know what I mean? I kept a couple of things at her house, but that's how big my world was. And now it's like things are getting better, and it's because I put in a lot of hard work. I work hard and I do what I have to do and I show up. And what do they say? I heard it as men and boys, but I think a better way to put it would be, children do what they want, adults do what they have to. And I feel like an adult for one of the first times in my life.
Oh,
All right.
proud of you, Jason. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll
buddy.
accept that.
Hey, look, Storm in the comments has 5 years. Congrats,
Whoa.
Storm. Yeah.
Miracles.
All day. I don't know if you were on, or not, maybe I might have not even shared it on the show, but a couple weeks ago, I was in Georgia and I flew back to Texas, and my flight was delayed, and my bag was the last bag off the thing, and I was standing at the Austin airport waiting by baggage claim, just watching every other person on my flight just take off, and it was late, and I was grumpy, and I had to be at a conference the next morning at 8 a.m. And I had a similar thing, right? I was starting to get real irate, and I kind of was like, wait a second, Joseph, like, hold on here. Like, you just flew on a plane,
Right.
you got to hang out at the airport lounge. Like, you're going to go get in a car that runs well and drive to your home. Perspective.
Perspective, yeah.
So you got to wait a couple minutes to get your bag. It's all right.
Yeah, what's the big exactly like these things I find myself complaining about time, and then like once you check yourself though, it seems like you get into gratitude as soon as you're like,
Yeah.
you know what
I wish more of the world had that skill. Because I think about it a lot. Just, most of the people we interact with on a daily basis, right, outside of recovery folks, don't have a spiritual program of action, don't have any kind of that self-reflection, self-inventory, kind of what did I do wrong, how can I do better. Most people don't think like that.
Yeah, I'm sure there's some stat that like people in recovery, people who are doing an active role in whatever it is, any kind of self-help, probably make better employees, make better partners, make better just people, because there's this thing, especially if you're doing 12 steps and you're doing an active 10th step every day, where you essentially have to have a checklist, you know what I mean? And that 10th step, when I did that, it really helped me do things like that, because I was a big road rage guy. Like people just drove me crazy, especially driving in Florida. Florida has to have the worst drivers. I would say at least that has to be like the top 5 place worldwide for the worst drivers. Bottom 5, whatever. And let's just say I would, but it wasn't. It was more. What's the word? Is it defensive as opposed to offensive? Like if somebody would cut me off or something, like I wasn't the one causing shit.
You weren't the aggressor.
I wasn't the aggressor.
You were the victim.
I was more of a vigilante than a victim, but that's how I felt though. Like seriously, like it wouldn't. I wouldn't even mind my own business. I'm like, if I see some car driving like an asshole and he cuts some person off, it's my job to now go and make that guy's day like a little bit worse. Follow him and get on his ass, and it's just like,
oh no,
right?
You know what?
Maggie,
look, Maggie.
Get back to her basics.
Yeah, Maggie's identifying with a little bit of this. Yeah, road rage. Oof. A lot of people give me crap. They tell me I drive like a grandpa, and it's not that I don't like to drive fast or I'm not in a hurry. It's just I drive like Dr. Dre's Chronic album is on all the time.
Okay,
smooth
what I mean? And yeah,
I drive. Yeah. That is the vibe I'm going for when I'm driving.
I'd love to see a split screen of how you see yourself and how you really are. Because I'm
not as cool as Dr. Dre. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, I'm going for that energy when I drive.
And okay, yeah, that is some smooth energy. And I'm sure a lot of it happened, having 3 children in the car made you a much more aware driver, a much more, if this guy's in a hurry, just let him go. I'm not gonna,
Yeah. And whenever I do feel a little bit of anger, I just take a breath and I go 1, 2, 3, and to the foe, Snoop Dogg.
I thought you were gonna say if somebody cuts me off in my bed, I just close my eyes, breathe while driving. Yeah.
Okay, we're not here to talk about road rage tonight, Jason. Tonight's a great night. It's a great night because
all hosts. We have no guests tonight, which our scheduled guest, who's amazing, and hopefully we'll reschedule. Got himself some
We'll see.
Yeah.
Wasn't able to make it.
I was going to say, you let the cat out of the bag too quick. I was going to say, that's what the public wanted. They said, we want more we want to know how Joseph is qualified to talk about such things. We want to know how he gets his experience in the experience, strength, and hope part, right? Like, what earned you a life in recovery, a job in recovery where you're helping people? Let's start from the beginning.
What curious chain of events led to you and I on a Thursday night?
Yeah, that's
Zooming, talking to people like Doc McGee and Kelly Knoll and all these. Right?
Chris
How did
Gates,
that happen?
yeah.
Wait, so are we just doing we're doing your story too, though, right?
Well, let's talk about yours, and then
we're
if
doing
we
me
get
first.
to that, yeah.
Are we gonna do the spinning wheel of songs before we get into that?
Okay, that's a good idea. Let's do the spinning wheel of songs.
I
Oh,
don't-
we got a couple of things to cover first. Okay.
Yeah. Let's do the spinning wheel of songs. Let's do some things.
Some systems.
There once was a wheel, it was a special wheel, it was a magical wheel, it was the best damn wheel, it's the spinning wheel of songs. Da-da-da-da. All right, let's spin this wheel. Oh man, you can dream. You can do it someday, Jason.
That gives me a...
What do we got? What's the wheel got in store? A song that could be your theme song. Oh man.
Well, I know one comes off the bat. It's called Jason.
By who?
By Perfume Genius.
Okay.
I mean, just for the title, it doesn't really speak about any experience that I've had in my life, but I'll go with an easy one, the low-hanging fruit for that one.
Oh man, Jason, I gotta say, there's a song by AFI, "Days of the Phoenix" by AFI.
Mm-hmm.
Something about that song, it's very nostalgic, it's very grandiose, which is a lot of the way the things in my head go.
Yeah.
I think "Days of the Phoenix" would be amazing as a theme song. What else?
Blue Monday by New Order has been since I got clean, has been a real... I don't know if you're familiar with that one. It starts off, "I feel so extraordinary," and
I'm much more familiar with the Orgy version from the late 90s.
Oh, okay.
There was a band called Orgy.
I remember Orgy. Yeah, I wasn't aware that they did a cover of it, but that song is.
Oh yeah, that was like their big hit.
I didn't have my finger on the pulse of Orgy, apparently.
You weren't on the new metal scene.
I like their deep cuts. I like their earlier work.
I gotta say, John Butler Trio, "Used to Get High." Incredible song. So, I mean, the chorus is, "Used to get high for a living," whatever. But the verses are these anti-consumerist screeds about, like, all the different lies you get told in society. Very, very punk rock meets jam band.
Okay, all right. Let's think if I have to think one more. I don't know, man. I'm kind of drawing a blank here. I can't use the one song that I use for every other time we go on something here, but I don't know. I can't think of another one.
Were you gonna say that Elliott Smith song?
Yeah. Fond Farewell. I mean, it's one of those that just encompasses so much.
Can I confess something to you, Jason?
You never heard it?
I don't think I've ever heard an entire Elliott Smith song.
Wow, is that because you turn it off?
Acoustic sadness is not my vibe.
He's got some rock and stuff too. I'm gonna make you a playlist and I'll shoot it over to you.
Okay.
You could,
Fair enough.
I mean, I think our playlists back and forth to each other have gone well. When you did the workout playlist, I think I had you covered with that one.
Oh yeah, that was a solid one. That was great. Okay, well let's. Do we want to do press, radio, and films, or we want to get into it?
Yeah, let's. I mean, we got time.
Okay, let's do a little press, radio, and films. Let's see what's going on in the news media and the pop culture.
Press, radio, and film.
So we have. I don't think I could share it on the screen. I didn't send anything over, but Mac Miller's drug dealer, 17 and a half years of prison for his sale to Mac Miller, and that is just. I don't know. What do you think of that?
First, I will tell you that a sign to me that Mac Miller was another next level musician is the fact that when I play that NPR concert he did a Tiny Desk concert.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
That one right there, that picture. So Ella, my 4-year-old, has loved that since she was like a year and a half old, maybe.
I think he did an Elliott Smith cover on that performance. I bet you didn't turn that one off.
No, never.
Yeah,
it's Mac Miller.
But I believe there was more than one person to get charged with this, right? So
yes, there was 3 guys charged, and so just for Tracy in Nebraska or wherever Tracy is, this is a big deal because this is a relatively new idea that has been coming about in the last, I'd say, 2 years, as we become more acutely aware as a society of the opioid crisis, and that drug dealers and individuals who contribute to overdose deaths simply, in the transport, delivery, acquisition, et cetera, part of it, can be held accountable, not just for the narcotics related crime, but also the death that they in some part caused.
So are these so my question is, and is like anybody involved, like a middleman, going to be charged with something? So say he called somebody who didn't have anything, but then he hooked him up with this guy and this guy, because that happens, quite a bit in that world.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that seems to be the precedent they're setting in Mac Miller's case. Now, it is not a federal case, so any kind of precedent they set would be, I guess, for California, where it's taking place. But that's a big deal, and I do know, Jason, I shared with you. I recently have been spending some time with a woman who lost her son to an overdose last year, and she has been actively participating, cooperating with police and the judicial system because they know exactly who sold him the drugs. He's continued to sell drugs despite knowing that he caused someone to die with his fentanyl-laced Xanax. And he's currently in custody for a separate charge, and they're getting ready to charge him in a similar manner. I don't know if it's manslaughter or what the specific charge is, but this is a big deal, y'all.
It is. It is. What do you are you in agreement of it? What's your thoughts?
I don't know that I've thought about it long enough to really land somewhere. Right. On one hand, I do believe in personal responsibility.
Yes.
But on the other hand, it's not like it was when I was getting high, right? If you generally knew how strong the dope you were doing was, and there, right. I don't believe there's a way to tell that anymore, short of using fentanyl test strips.
Right, because he had wasn't it Vicodin, like pressed Vicodin or something, which is in
I believe it was pressed Oxy.
Was it pressed Oxy? Okay, because I know that there were fake Vicodin in some story recently, and it was like in our world, Vicodin is pretty low dose. That's pretty really I would be mad if I had gotten a Vicodin back in the day. Like it would take me way too much to even get anything. But could you imagine somebody getting a Vicodin or a Xanax bar and taking a little piece off of it as they do, and that being it?
Well, that's the big thing that I hear a lot is the Xanax is people trying to get pressed Xanax and finding that they overdose. And there's a whole, obviously, Michael here in the comments, he says, I chose to use, and you know what,
right.
Absolutely, at least for myself, right? I'm an alcoholic and addict. Nobody forced me to start. Nobody forced me to keep going. Right. But I think it's different, with the fentanyl being laced and cut into pretty much everything on the market nowadays. That being said, that makes me think about harm reduction stuff, right? There's a big there's a lot of awareness and campaigns going on out there about fentanyl test strips. There's different groups like there's a group called Dance Safe that they go to EDM festivals and pass out testing strips to make sure that that your drugs don't have any fentanyl in them if you're choosing to do drugs.
Right.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with helping somebody do drugs more safely. That's just me.
That's fair. That's fair enough. Because, my only thing was if everybody sort of involved is getting in trouble for it. Because I could think of hundreds and hundreds of times when somebody couldn't find something somewhere and I would get a call and it would be like, hey, if you can get me something, I'll hook you up. You know what I mean? And I that's how I fed my addiction for years, was kind of middlemaning for somebody. And for somebody to go away for something like that when they're just trying to feed their addiction is, there is some responsibility there, absolutely, but to what extent?
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting the same stuff, if you're not putting this in somebody's hand as like a drug dealer, but just like as a co-conspirator, I guess it would be. And if you guys went to get it together, but you made the phone call, does that make you responsible?
I don't know, man. I think that's
it's a lot of gray.
There's a lot of things to consider in that.
A lot of gray in there, yeah.
Look, and Michael's right. I could have been charged with plenty of things.
Could have, yeah.
Oh man, the other day we were hanging out with some parents that we are getting to know. And they don't know us super well, but they know I'm in recovery and whatnot. And we're a little curious, and I was like, let me put it this way. If I'd gotten caught for half the things I did, I'd be in jail for a really long time.
I hope they're watching tonight as you're going to tell your story.
Yeah.
Nice get to know you.
There's a good question here in the comments from Jackie. She said, if meds are coming straight from the pharmacy, can they also be pressed? The answer to that, Jackie, is no. These pressed pills, these are counterfeit pills that are being made and sold exclusively on the black market. So whatever medications you're getting from the pharmacy should be what it says on the label. Yeah.
But the scary thing is you can't tell the difference from one to another. So yeah, I know that's what's happening a lot is people are, and it's a tale as old as people have been getting prescribed these pills. You run out and then somebody else who has one. You don't know where they got it from. You're assuming that because it's pharmaceutical that you're getting a pharmaceutical grade medication. And that's not the case. And we're hearing all too often that people are, taking what is it? What's the study drug? The ADHD drug?
Adderall.
People are taking Adderall and overdosing from it. You know what I mean? Like studying for a test, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if you're out there and you're still using, bottom line, be safe. Whatever the smartest, the safest way you can use. Obviously, I'd like you to not use. It's really nice on this side.
It's
being
great.
In recovery.
Yeah.
But if you're still in it, I tell clients all the time, the only thing we can't fix is dead. Right. So we'd like you to stick around to experience recovery if you are still in your active addiction.
Join us.
Yeah. On the road to happy destiny. As we trudge the road of happiness.
In the beginning.
Do you know the definition of the word trudge, Jason?
I'm sorry?
Do you know the definition of the word trudge?
I don't.
It's to walk laboriously or with purpose.
Okay. Laborious. Yeah. I trudged through for a long time.
Yeah.
And with purpose. So yeah, okay.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get into it, Jason. I mean, so if we're going to focus on my story, then I'm just going to go ahead and sit back, and you're going to be our guide on this journey there, buddy.
Okay. So let's talk about how you first got started, how you first got started with your first drugs or drinking or whatever it was. How did that start? Young Joseph.
Oh, yeah.
Paint us a picture. Tell us a tale.
I grew up, in South Texas, and, everyone in my family, pretty much 95% of my family still lives in Mexico. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a stereotype, but it's also kind of true is, the giving the 4-year-old a little sip of beer, it's just a reality. So I kind of attribute my first drink to being around 10 years old at a New Year's Eve party. where there was an open bar. It was at a family member's house, and I just, my tío Pancho, he'd hire bartenders and stuff for parties.
Yeah.
He was fancy. So that was the first time I drank. But the first time I used a drug actually was I stole some weed from my dad. I was digging through his stuff, probably about 12, 13 years old, and I found a box of chocolates in his bottom drawer. And I was a chubby kid, and I was like, "Ooh, chocolates!" And I opened it up, and there was just a bag of leafy material and some zigzags. And I took a little bit of his weed, and took a corncob pipe from my grandfather's house, and smoked weed for the first time in my life in my grandma's bathroom in
By
Tampico,
yourself?
Mexico. Yeah, by myself. Yeah. And you know what? I like that you noticed that, because like I was never the early days of my usage were not like with my buddies socializing, experimenting, kind of, you know what I mean? My very, very early using, probably the first 2 years or so, were almost exclusively by myself. Because I guess, from the early days, I was very much after changing the way I felt. It was never really like a let me drink to have a good time or hang out with these girls, or that was not me
Okay.
at all. So I had the ism before I had the alcohol.
Gotcha. All right. And was it weed that made you the first time? What was your experience the first time you felt that? Was that something that was like, I'm gonna keep doing this, or was it just like,
No, I always liked it. I liked there is no substance that I ever tried for the first time that I did not immediately enjoy. For most of my using up until I found heroin, I was what you'd call a garbage can.
yeah.
My drug of choice was more. If someone showed up and was like, "Hey, I found this bag of pills, they're orange, we don't know what they are," I would take them. Like if I got prescribed something, like I think one time I got prescribed Seroquel for whatever Seroquel's for, and I was like, "Well, what happens if I take 10?" That's the kind of guy I was. I
10
just didn't.
Seroquel.
Yes. 10 Seroquel and a bottle of rosé is how I got this scar here under my.
All right. Yeah, you have to elaborate. Let's. What was that experience like? Because and then I'll tell you my Seroquel story.
Okay. So I was in one of those periods of time where I was trying to not do heroin, right? I wasn't full on strung out, but I needed to get sufficiently wasted to not act on the urge to use heroin, right? It was New Year's Eve, probably I want to say 2003, 2004. And I had just gotten out of detox, and I walked out of detox with a script of Seroquel. So I took a bunch of Seroquel and drank this bottle of rosé somebody had given me, and got trashed enough to pass out before midnight, right? And I was at my girlfriend at the time's home, and her mom really liked me, so I had been given permission to spend the night there should I need to.
How old were you?
19, maybe 20.
Oh, okay.
Not with my girlfriend.
Okay,
in a spare room in a twin bed. And so I went to that bed and passed out, and one of her sister's boyfriends was very upset at the fact that he was not getting that same opportunity. So first he decided he was going to try to yank me out of bed for him to drive me home. And apparently I resisted, and then he popped me in the face with his keys.
What a dick.
Yeah, total dick. So then I went, sat at the ER for about 4 hours before I decided that was for losers, and I left and got high. But then eventually the next day I had to go back and sit in the ER again to wait to get some stitches. But yeah.
I just can't imagine somebody functioning on that. I've had one experience with Seroquel, and it was in rehab, And like I've told you about it before and talked about it in the show, that I had a really, really, really tough detox, because it was, you know, decades of opiates and then Suboxone and then some methadone in there. So my detox was pretty hefty, and it was weeks and weeks, even getting weaned off of stuff, you know, with comfort meds. So I couldn't sleep at all. So they changed my sleep meds and they gave me Seroquel, one time only. And I'm kind of a sleep eater as it is.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? The Seroquel munchies.
No, Gabby, I didn't drink mouthwash. That was another time. But I was at Recovery Unplugged and under their care, and I had taken the Seroquel, and next thing I know, I'm in the bathroom with a mouthful of lotion. I guess I'm in the bathroom, and there was like a bottle of like lotion or hand soap that was like in a bottle like this. And apparently I like thought it was like a Slurpee or something, and I'm like trying to like squeeze it, and just all in my mouth coming out. And that was my first and last time with Seroquel.
Oh no. And you know what, just for the folks at home who don't really like know us super well or haven't listened to the show that much, you know, I know I tell that story like it's super funny, but in reality, you know, when the sun came up on January 1st and I had, you know, tape and paper towels attached to my face and like blood dried on my neck, and it was not a good feeling. You know, like for me, the sun coming up was always a very stark reminder of how off the rails my life was. You know what I mean?
I absolutely know what you mean. I mean, what did they say about the difference between a comedy and a tragedy is time?
Yeah.
And we joke about this stuff now that people are still struggling with right now, and it's not funny when somebody's still struggling with it. But after, it's gallows humor, you know. Like we've been through some terrible, terrible times in our life, and now we've made it through. So we joke about these things, and I know when newcomers hear it, you know, or somebody who's still struggling, it's just like there's nothing funny about that, and it's only because we've had these experiences that we could kind of talk about them lightheartedly. But it's not making fun of people who are currently going through these issues. I'm making fun of you who went through this 15 years ago. Exclusively just you.
Just me. Yeah, we're just making fun of Joseph.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, so you were asking, you know, like, you know, if I liked it immediately, like, yes, I liked it immediately. And even like during high school when I was partying with, you know, when I had a group of friends who partied, right? I was always the one that went a little bit further, you know? Like I remember going to spring break at South Padre Island, which is what you do in Texas for spring break when you're in high school and college. And I was staying in a condo with like 25 other juniors and seniors. And I woke up one day, and I don't know what time it was, but I was the first person awake. And so what did I do? I rolled a joint. And I went around this condo and woke up every single person one by one, asking them if they wanted to smoke a joint with me. And every single person turned me down. And I remember going out and sitting on the beach and smoking it, being like, no, these guys, they don't know how to party. They don't, you know, I could smoke the whole joint myself. But the reality was that, like, even on spring break with a bunch of teenagers who were there for the sole purpose of getting wasted, I went a little bit further, always.
Yeah.
I should have known something was wrong.
Well, so I had this experience where, you know, I had some pretty good times when I was, you know, using, and I used to work in nightclubs. Me and Davy Jones used to work in some nightclubs together, and, you know, I was DJing and partying a lot and hosting parties, and there was some really successful people that I'd be there partying with, and I was just you know what I mean? Like, that was my life. That was my job. But then they would go and have their normal life after that. You know, when the night was over, they would go home and go to sleep, and I would just stay out. And I knew these people, and I always thought everybody was partying like me for days and days and days. And then it got to the point where it was just me partying for days and days and days. And, you know, it gets very dark and lonely.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's I understand that. You know, I remember, so I barely graduated high school, right? For some perspective on that, I almost didn't walk because I was failing yearbook, which is like one of those joke classes that nobody fails. Right?
I mean, was it just from not showing up, or were you like?
I refused to sell an ad. Part of your assignment, part of your grading yearbook is to sell at least one page worth of ads in the back of the yearbook. This is actually a funny story. So 2 days before graduation, I get told that I'm not going to walk unless and I was like, well, what if I can sell an ad? They're like, you have 24 hours to sell an ad and we'll give you a C.
You sold to
Right?
your drug dealer?
No. So what I did is I proceeded to ask every single person I came across, classmates, teachers, my boss at the Sam Goody, random people in the mall. I asked everyone to make a small donation to the Help Joseph Pass Yearbook Fund. I kept a list of all their names and was able to raise, I think it was like $240 in the span of those 24 hours. And so if you go find a 2002 yearbook from St. Augustine High School in Laredo, Texas, there's a one-page ad in the back that is just a list of all the names of people who gave me money, a picture of me asleep in yearbook class, and a little note that says, thanks to the kindness of all these individuals, Joseph was able to pass yearbook
Oddly
with a
enough,
73 average.
I have one right here. Hold on, let me pull it up.
I don't even have one. But what's kind of messed up is there was one time that I went to rehab where the reason I don't have that yearbook anymore is because there was one time I went to rehab where my mother just decided that like she needed to get rid of every vestige of my life before rehab. And so there's not a lot of pictures that exist of Joseph before he got sober. There's, art that I did, books, pictures, yearbooks. She was just like, it's all tainted. She got rid of all of it.
She was done with you at that point.
And like, that's pretty extreme, but I think it's a good illustration of Joseph, the original crowdfunder. I think that's a really good illustration of kind of like what I put my mom through, right? What we put our parents through and our families through is that they do crazy shit, like throw all your stuff into a trash bag and get rid of it just because they want you to have that fresh of a start when you get out of treatment.
Yeah, and that's definitely what some people need, and that's such a hard thing to convince somebody to when it's like they don't really even have much to begin with, and like you're telling them the only one thing in your life that brings you any joy is the only thing that we're asking you to stop doing. I think that's where so much resistance comes when somebody's just coming in and just trying to.
But I mean, I wouldn't even say like brings me joy, right? The only thing that kept me from crawling out of my own skin, was I'll fast forward a little bit because I know I'm long-winded, but like, so long story short, by the time I get out of high school, I'm heavy into drugs. I'm shooting heroin and selling cocaine and living with a stripper within 6 months of graduating from St. Augustine High School, class of 2002. And I remember thinking, like, I'd go into the bathroom and go fix at some gas station or whatever, and I walk out feeling like a fucking rock star, and thinking that all my classmates that I had graduated with, who like were at their first semester at Baylor or A&M or UT, or because I went to a private school, some of those guys got into Harvard and Duke and Yale and that kind of stuff, and I remember just thinking that they were sheep. Like I was living this life worthy of a movie, this really interesting life, right?
Right.
And
Grandiose.
Grandiose, like I was talking about earlier, right? Like grandiose in my head, right? I thought that I was, it was really exciting. And the fact of the matter is that like 90% of it was just sitting around going,
yeah.
Right. So I spent 6 years addicted to IV heroin. Went to rehab a bunch of times in there. Did all the things that you think of that IV heroin addicts do. Snatch purses, begging for money at gas stations, running scams, bouncing checks, breaking into houses, stealing from my family. Selling drugs, running dope for the Mexican mafia at one point. I was just a bag man, I was just taking things from point A to point B. And in that intermittent time, all the crappy things that happen to people who are addicted to IV heroin happened to me. Sleeping in my car, abscesses, overdoses, destroyed relationships, sleeping on the streets, watching people around me die, getting in trouble with the cops, detoxing in jail. Just waking up in some crack house in a puddle of dog piss. It's real easy to tell all those other stories, but these are the ones that, like, that's the reality, right? It's like for every haha, like something crazy happens when I was getting high story, I've got 4 or 5, woke up feeling dope sick and dehumanizing.
Because I know I talk about it a lot that part of the reason that I stay active in my recovery and I still do things is because as good as my life is now, for all the stuff that I've been talking about, all the gifts of recovery I have, if I see somebody nodding out on a bus bench or something, it's still like there's some attractiveness to it, and that's why I keep doing what I'm doing. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, when I see somebody who's not high, but they're clearly out there on the streets because of a substance abuse problem or whatever it is, and they're just walking around like lost, like nothing to do, bored, that in between time when you're either trying to get money or waiting for something
to happen, right?
Just like when I see people like that, just like sitting, nowhere to go, that is just that brings me back to like the worst of my life. Because at least when you're high, you're not feeling sick, your skin isn't crawling. But for me, I was sick more than I was high for, I would say, the last like 4 or 5 years, just because it was like I had run all my options into the ground. Yeah. And a lot of it was just waiting for something to happen, trying to get something to happen, and just complete boredom, like complete purgatory. There was just nothing. And that's what scares me to ever go back to that, to even take any like when I had dental work and got offered some pain medication, I was just like, no, because and it hurt so bad because I had all my teeth taken out. I had bone graft put in. Like I had some serious shit done, and I was in a lot of pain for a long time. But I knew that I would get some relief from the pain, but then I also knew how I'd feel the day those pills ran out, and I was not.
I was talking to a friend of mine this week. I had lunch with my friend Frank Parisi. Shout out to Frank Parisi. And he was talking about how he tore his bicep, right, which is extremely painful. And it was the first time in his recovery. He's got about 9 years, something like that. He said it was the first time in recovery he'd been given pain meds. And at first he was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to talk to my sponsor. I'm going to give the pain meds to my wife. She's going to dole them out to me exactly the way it's supposed to be. And even though he was taking them exactly the way they're supposed to, he was like, I like this too much. I need, get rid of them.
Yeah.
He told his wife to get rid of them. And he said that, I think he said he only took them one day, but that the very next day, like he was depressed. He was like, another level. And he was like, never again.
That's good. I did take the gas when I was getting extractions done, and I didn't enjoy it. Like it was so foreign because it had been so long. It wasn't like, I'm back. Yeah. It was just like, I was like, this is, because I wasn't in control. I mean, I was calm enough to get my teeth pulled, but it did its job.
One thing I think that's real different, like for you, having to use, that, for that reason, right? Like getting that drug for an actual legit reason, is that like you didn't need it. Like you weren't looking for relief from existence, which is very much the case. I practice a 12-step program, so I really believe, at the root of it all is that spiritual malady. And if there's no spiritual malady to fix, like you don't get that release.
Right. And there's a difference between drugs and medication. You're taking medication for a specific purpose. You're not doing it to I guess you're using illicit drugs for a specific purpose too, but you know what I'm saying. It's intended use, and then that's it.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your bottom and then your rise to the top? Let's hear about that.
So I mentioned a lot of things that lots of people would consider to be bottoms, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, got a gun pulled on me last night. Maybe we should change things, right?" Or, losing people, right? Watching people around me die, like that should be a wake up call. Or I think it is for most people, right? Who maybe go a little bit too far. But for me, my real bottom was, I'll tell you, the last 6 months I was using my last run. I had gotten very skilled at all the techniques and abilities needed to minimize the damage of drugs on my life, right? So like the last 6 months I was using, like you said that yours, like you're dope sick most of the time for your kind of last little bit.
Yeah, last few years.
Like the last 6 months I was using, man, I was living the dream. People thought I was sober. I had friends. My family thought I was sober. I was going to school, pulled a 4.0 GPA. I was working at a bank. I wasn't having to do anything besides work to make money for my drug habit. I was using exactly as much as I wanted. Like there was no external consequences of my use in the last 6 months.
So
Right.
almost what people would call using successfully.
Exactly. Yeah. I was finally a functioning addict, but the truth of the matter was that I was lonelier than I'd ever been in my life. Cause literally the only person that I was being 100% honest with was my drug dealer. Everyone else I was lying to in some way. And I was like in the rooms. I was going to meetings, like picking up dirty chips, doing speaker meetings, doing H&Is with dope in my pocket. Like,
damn.
So those last 6 months, the consequences were all internal. You know what I mean? Like all the things I was doing were only damaging my soul. And I went to bed every night not wanting to wake up, sometimes saying little foxhole prayers like, God, please don't let me wake up. And I kept waking up every morning a little disappointed, But so what happened is at the tail end of those 6 months, I had mathed wrong and did not have enough money to stay good until the next paycheck. So I was gonna have to pawn something.
And right. how long was it until your next paycheck at this point?
I was probably 6 days out.
Ooh.
Yeah. It wasn't like
tomorrow.
No. Because this was a Sunday, so I got paid on a Friday. Yeah, so like 5 or 6 days. Thank you, Milagros del Valle. Milagros is Spanish for miracle. Miracles. Yeah.
So, there you are. Two miracles there on the screen. There
you are, yeah. But so that day I was like, well, I have to pawn a guitar then, and so what I did is I went and I told my mother. I said, Ma, I relapsed and I need to go back to treatment, and I will go tomorrow, but I need you to give me some money right now. Right? Because I knew that if I went to go pawn the guitar and opened up that avenue, that like the facade of functioning addict was over. I was gonna go full throttle to all the things I knew I could do. Right. And so I told my mom, give me some money, whatever. My mom gave me $20. And I left and did what dope fiends do. And when I came home, she said, here, I'm going to put you, there's this treatment center. There's a guy, you got to call him. You got to do a pre-screening. Yeah. That man was Todd Benedict. Shout out to Todd Benedict if he's listening. Yeah. Todd's still around. Good dude. And so I did my pre-screening with him. And he was like, all right, everything looks good to me. We got a bed for you tomorrow at noon. Be here. And so I got off the phone with him and it kind of sunk in, and I was like, well, if I'm going to rehab tomorrow, might as well pawn the guitar. So I tried to, I told my mom I was going to go see my sponsor. and tried to sneak out of the house
That
with the
one.
guitar.
Yeah.
And she saw me leaving with the guitar, and she basically she threw herself on the ground behind the car so that I couldn't back up out of the driveway. And snot coming out of her nose, ugly crying, screaming, begging me to not go. And she kept on saying, if you go, you won't come back. Like, I can feel it. You're gonna die. And in that moment, I did not feel bad about it at all. Right. In that moment, I looked at her pretty cold-blooded and was just like, well, then I need more money. And she got me more money and whatever. And actually the last time I used the needle I was using was so dull that it no longer could pierce the skin. So I got a thumbtack, stabbed a hole in my calf, and stuck the syringe in there. And that was my last shot of dope. Not glamorous.
No. That's
So so the bottom wasn't that day, right? The bottom was that kind of 6 months of existence and misery. But as soon as I was in treatment and kind of my emotions started to come back, like, that became like the single most shameful thing I did in addiction to me.
Yeah.
But that's the last time I ever saw my mom cry.
That's great.
It's been almost 14 years since I've seen her cry, and I'm sure she's cried since then, but it was never because of me. And that feels pretty good.
It should. You deserve a piece of gum or whatever it is you just took. There you go.
Yeah.
Dry mouth. But that's I never knew about that part of it, and it makes so much sense to somebody like me who's been there, where it's just like you seemingly had what everybody who's going through active addiction sort of wants, or at least I did. I'm going to speak for myself. What I wanted.
Yeah.
Convince everybody around me that I wasn't using drugs, and then having them. Like, those are the only two things I ever wanted,
Yeah.
And when it's not covering that up anymore, when that's not filling that hole, because my bottom was, I had gotten to one point where I was working at this nightclub where a bunch of drug dealers frequented. It was like the club in Fort Lauderdale where all the dope boys went. And these were professionals. They didn't carry it with them, but this is where they partied. And I met all these people, and I was getting a lot of stuff because I was getting them in for free, getting them VIP services, whatever. And it just wasn't working anymore. Like, I remember this one night I had more dope than I had in years and years and years. And it just did not do what I needed it to do anymore. And I felt like I got betrayed by God. It was just like, what is this? Like, what do you want from me?
Someone said, as a mom, I'm sure your mother must be so happy. Yeah, you know what? Jason's mom listens to the podcast, and I know she's real happy. And my mom watches it after. She listens to it afterwards. And she is very happy, I think, right? She's not worried about me no more.
We need to get the moms on here one day.
Oh, my mom would never.
No?
My mom would never.
Yes, Mom, I
did. Your mom's calling you out.
I did. One night I was working in this nightclub in Miami that had a 24-hour liquor license. It's actually the club that Davy Jones, friend of the show here, got me a job at. And I mean, this place, it was like... I couldn't even tell stories about this place. Like, it just sounds like complete bullshit, but it is just like the most drug heavy place I've ever been in my entire life. Open
Studio 54?
Pretty much, yeah. But not as glamorous, not nearly as glamorous. And I had a little office in the back, and I was so fucked up and nodded out. Like, I woke up and it was probably like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. The club had probably closed around 7 or 8 in the morning. And I woke up and they had locked all the doors, like heavy duty locks, and I was like locked inside, and I had to stay inside the club. It was terrible.
There was no phone?
Yeah, but I couldn't. The only people who could get the key was the owner of the club, and he never picked up his phone. Like I wasn't going to call the fire department to get out or anything.
Yeah.
I had drugs and whatever. I was okay. I'll stay here until
I
work.
guess this is what I'm doing today.
Yeah. I didn't have a lot of options. It's not like I was going to go anywhere fun.
We're running out of time, but I do want to like at least hit some recovery in there.
Okay. Yeah. War story Thursdays.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like we got to talk about that stuff so that the newcomer can identify, right? That's why we're told to still talk about those things. I mean, A, remind myself of where I came from, but B, so that a newcomer who comes in, because I'm proud to say that I believe I'm the type of person that when people meet me, the thought of me being a hardcore drug addict is not their first impression, right?
No, thankfully.
Yeah. But what I finally did the last time I went to treatment is I listened to what people told me to do. They said you should go to sober living and not go back to Laredo, Texas. And I said, okay. They said you should get a sponsor. This guy is the only other guy we have around here who's from South Texas, so he's going to be your sponsor. And I was like, all right, that's I worked the steps. That was what worked for me. Where I got sober at, it was very much like you get through those steps as fast as you can. 30 days, 60 days. Get through all 12 and start raising your hand to sponsor people as fast as possible. And it was a very service-oriented kind of message that I got, if you got 7 days, help the guy with 6 days kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so I got involved in 12-step programs. I, chaired meetings, cleaned up afterwards, greeted newcomers, volunteered to do the readings, volunteered to hand out chips, like all that stuff. Like I really jumped right into the middle of the recovery scene where I lived. And, I quit lying about shit. I think that was one of the biggest things is like I quit lying about shit to myself and to other people. Like if I was having a bad day, or if I, felt like drinking or, just whatever. I started telling on myself with that kind of stuff. And I can't tell you how huge that was. So yeah, you know what I mean? And Jason, the rest of the story, right? I get my girlfriend pregnant and 9 months over.
Look at you now.
Yeah. I'm a counselor. I got 3 kids. I coach baseball. The president-elect for TAP, the whole dang Association of Addiction Professionals in Texas. Like,
so if kind of we could go back to that Joseph who was just about ready to go into treatment, right? The one who was willing to go. And if you said, all right, I'm going to close my eyes and try to envision what my future is going to be like. Any idea it was going to be as good and rewarding and amazing as it is now?
No. Like I think the best I could have come up. Well, here's one thing I'll say first is when I finally got sober, the only thing I wanted to do was not shoot dope.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't thinking about anything else. I needed no other benefit to be offered to me other than you do these 12 things, you won't get high anymore.
Yeah.
Like that was the only thing I wanted.
I actually found a short-term goal. I wish I had it out. I found a notebook that I had when I was living in Halfway, like when I ultimately got clean, and I had a short-term goal list and then a longer-term goal list, and it was all stuff that like it was such a big deal in my life at that point. It was get a bus pass, get a guitar, and get a gym membership, and like I was like, if I could get these 3 things, I know I'm on my way. And it's just like, check. And then things just keep getting better. And then I got a car, I got my license fixed, and just, and it never would have happened.
Jackie and Kimberly for the kind words.
Yeah.
So, they're saying nice things about us, Jason.
Thank you guys. Thank you. But yeah, man.
But so like, I think the best Joseph back then could have thought of was like maybe being like a GM at a restaurant would have been like, all right, I think probably like the wife and kids is something I always wanted, but I had no idea
Right.
that I would have such a beautiful wife, you know, or such great kids.
Dude, your family's great, man. Your kids are awesome. Your wife is so cool. You guys, you really do have it. You really do have a good life, a good story.
Listen, I'm going to Belize next week to celebrate my 11-year wedding anniversary.
What? I don't believe that.
Yeah, and that's my way of telling you I'm not going to be on the show next Thursday. But but like, you know, I've been seeing a lot of stuff lately about like healing generational trauma and things like that. And like what I can tell you is that like at this point, me and Chelsea have been married longer than either of our parents were married to each other. You know what I mean? And that was really important to us. You know, I knew like growing up, like I would not get divorced and leave my kids, you know?
That's awesome.
And I gotta say, this has been on my mind too, and this is totally off topic, but maybe not so much. But like, you know, I'm very much of that generation of guys that was described in Fight Club, right? Like the generation raised by women, you know, all the broken homes and divorces, you know. But I feel like millennial dads, old millennial dads, and maybe like real young Gen X dads, I feel like we're doing the opposite of what we saw as dads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because like a lot of the dads I know that are around my same age, like are highly involved, are present with
very
their family.
nurturing. Yeah.
Yes. So props to all the millennial dads out there, y'all. Because
props to all the millennial dads. Props to everybody out there who's getting clean and sober, wanting to get clean and sober, supporting somebody who's clean and sober. And Joseph, this has been great, man.
Yeah.
Next week,
hold on, we're not wrapping up yet. Hold on. No,
okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Look, you had me in the hot seat the whole show. Now it's your turn. It is time for rapid fire questions.
It's rapid fire question time.
All right, I'm gonna take it easy on you. I only have 4, and I don't think they're that hard.
Okay.
Here we're gonna go. Who's your favorite Ninja Turtle?
Donatello.
Why?
I love the staff.
He was a smart one.
Yeah.
All right. If you could resurrect any musician and have their zombie self perform a concert for you and your closest friends, who would it be?
You know, I'm gonna say Elliott Smith. That's the other guy.
But he would still have all the stab wounds.
Oh, Joseph, that's too soon.
How long has he been dead?
I don't know, like 20-something years.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What to you was the most challenging step?
I would say 3. Definitely 3. Turning it over.
Turn your will and life
yeah,
over.
But once I did, man, that's where it started getting a little bit better. And then 6 and 7 was when it started. I stopped feeling like I was faking it till you make it. That's when I started like feeling like, oh, okay, this is working.
Faking it till I'm making it.
Faking it till I'm making it.
All right. You know, next week, you and I and 3 other friends of ours are going to perform YMCA as the Village People. Which village person would you want to be?
Well, there's some that are culturally inappropriate now, so I'm just gonna go with the construction worker. Because I could never carry a good mustache, and I remember him having like a pretty like Tom Selleck-y mustache, and I just don't have the face for it. So, for mustache purposes, I'm gonna go with the construction worker.
All right, last one, and I don't know this one. You might not be able to do this one, but tell me your best dad joke.
I heard somebody complaining the other day about how long the receipts at CVS are. And I said, well, you know what you'd really hate? Books.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's a Norm Macdonald joke. Books.
That was good.
Thank you.
You want to hear my best dad joke?
Sure.
It's long. I don't know. Yeah, you know what? Whatever. So
tune in next week for Joseph's dad joke.
No, I'm doing this. So Kermit walks into a bank. Kermit, from the Muppets, right? He
The
walks
frog.
into the bank. Yeah. And as he's walking up to the teller, he sees that her name is Patricia Whack. Okay. That's important information. Patricia Whack. And he walks up to her and he says, Patricia, I'd like a loan. I'd like a loan of $50,000. And she says, well, I can't just give you a loan. You know, he's like, no, it's fine. My dad's Mick Jagger. All right. And she goes, your dad's Mick Jagger. She's like, well, that's not true. But also, like, I can't just give you a loan because your dad's famous. You need to have like collateral. You got to have something. I can't just give you $50,000. He goes, well, what if I gave you this? And out of his pocket, he pulls a tiny white porcelain elephant. He goes, what if I give you this as collateral? She goes, a porcelain elephant? Why would that be good collateral for a loan? And he goes, look, just do me a favor. I know the bank manager. Go talk to him about it. So she goes to her boss and she's like, man, I got this frog. Mick Jagger's his dad. He's got this little elephant. He wants me to give him money. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what this little elephant is. And the bank manager looks at her and he goes, it's a knick-knack, paddywhack. Give the frog a loan. His old man's a rolling stone. Oh, man. I love that joke. All right.
Good night, folks.
Jason, you want to take us out?
There's 1,000 ways in and 1,000 ways out, and I hope I never have to hear that joke ever again.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you.